All right, guys, I think we are now live for another Wednesday edition of Conversations with Cougars. And this is a conversation I've been looking forward to for quite a while. I've got Jonathan Woo Woo Parker with us. How are you doing this evening, Woo?
Man, I'm doing great, Bernard. How's it going?
Oh, it's fantastic. And you look great. And I'm so glad you've got some time and we're able to be able to spare some time with us tonight as we take a trip down memory lane. You're looking fit, you're looking sharp, and I hope you're doing well.
Man, I appreciate it. The same to you, man. Appreciate that.
Very good. Well, if you guys don't know Woo Woo, you haven't been following the Northview program. He was one half of what I consider and many consider to be the best running back duo in Northview history. And tag teaming with Doug Jones for a couple of years. It was power, it was grace, and it was all in your face. Those guys were awesome. And I was a couple of years behind those guys, and just to watch them from the sidelines was a real treat. So I just wanted to share that with you for a minute or so. Woo, if you would, tell folks what you're doing these days. Where do you live? What kind of work? Tell us about your family. Catch folks up before we head back to the good old days.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I'm doing well, man. I still reside in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm married. Family's doing well. I've got two daughters. I've got five sons, two granddaughters, and two grandsons also.
Wow.
Everything's great. Right now, I'm still in my profession. I like to call it a transportation engineer, most commonly known as a truck driver. I'm hauling around chemicals right now, supplying most of the water treatment centers in the Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama areas.
Well, I know that's an essential or considered essential job. So I know
That's
you're
correct.
out
Yes, it is.
quite a bit, and I know you're being and doing the right things during this crazy time period. Woo, before we jump any further, holy smokes, I got to tell you who all's jumped on already. Chuck Jackson, Kevin Christ, Charles Bronson, Coach Randy Hicks, John David Edwards are among the others who are sharing some love and saying hello to you tonight.
Oh man, awesome, awesome, great list of guys. I mean, I got stories of each and every one of those guys you just named. Each
Well,
and every
we're
one.
going to get in. We're going to get into that. Where I want to start with you is I want you to tell the folks, because I bet not everybody knows, how did you get the nickname Woo Woo? Everybody
Great.
knows you as Woo Woo. Hardly
Yeah.
more people probably know you as Woo Woo than they do your God given name.
Man, to this day, all of my family, mom, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody still calls me Woo Woo. Sisters, brothers. My wife, I believe, is the only one that calls me Jonathan. Um, the name, Bernard, I would love to tell you what I think the name means, but the honest truth is, I asked my mom, I said, where did the name come from? And she told me that she got the name from her favorite childhood storybook. Now, mind you, we're talking 1930s, maybe early 1940s. There was a story of two little boys called Pookie and Woo Woo. Now, a lot of people know I have an older brother that goes by the name of Pookie. So that's where the name came from a
Oh,
storybook from way back when.
that's fantastic. Just from my own assumption and not knowing, when I'm thinking woo woo, I'm thinking of a train, and I'm thinking of how much of an engine you had energy wise on the field, and so that's where I just thought it fit. But that's your mom's story. That's just even better.
Favorite storybook, exactly.
That's oh, we got so many more folks coming in. Steve Stutz, Mark Saffold, and a fellow who you may know as Chris Parker has joined us.
Yeah, that guy, Shockey.
Shockey Parker. Well, thank you guys. We're spending some time with Woo Woo, and I'm so glad. Oh, if I don't know if you guys have caught over his left shoulder at that awesome looking number 34 jersey over there. That is so cool. So thank you for sharing that with us this evening. You were the #1 point guard for Coach Rick Cleveland, who says to tell you hello and sends his love.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Coach, I appreciate you, Coach, for keeping all the secrets between us. Coach got dirt on me, y'all. He really does. And we're just going to leave it like that, Coach.
I had Coach on several weeks ago. Maybe I need to bring him back on to find out.
No. Let's let the past stay in the past. But I'll tell you one thing. It has something to do with a ball game, a pregame, and the laundry room in the gym. And we'll just leave it at that.
We'll just leave it at that. But Philip Braswell, Revis Gertman, Hunter Parrish have all dropped in. You are a popular dude, that's for sure. And I'm so glad.
Oh, man, that's that Cougar love, man. That's that Cougar spirit right there.
Well, let's jump back to that. What part of town did you grow up in? Where did you spend your childhood before you came into high school?
Well, actually, I was born in Manhattan, New York. Mm-hmm. And we lived out on Long Island, Amityville, Copac area of New York. Mm-hmm. As history would tell me, we actually ended up moving to Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the reasons, or the main reason that we moved to Cleveland, Ohio, was that my dad had been advised that it might be wise for him to leave town because there was going to be, let's say, a roundup of people. Not fictional, this is all facts, had something to do about a guy, I don't know the guy's, can't remember his name right offhand, but Denzel Washington played the character. True story. Wow. My dad was just a hardworking blue-collar guy working at Lincoln Mercury, detailing cars and such. And all of a sudden, people would have him take a car to wherever. Just drive this car. Do not look in the trunk, Willie. Willie Parker, do not look in the trunk. Well, he would go drop the cars off and walk 5 miles, 10 miles back to the train station. But he would always get picked up and driven to the train station and then go on about his day. And he made a little something on the side for himself. Well, he got a little nudge in a bar once. And a guy told him that you might want to leave town because we're going to have a crackdown. And the guy told him that he worked for the FBI. And Dad thought he was tripping out. He said, "You can't be kidding me," until the guy showed him the badge. Next thing I know, we were all in Cleveland, Ohio. True story.
Wow. So you go to Cleveland, and then you go from Cleveland down to Dothan?
Yeah, we actually, I consider Cleveland where I actually grew up, because Cleveland, urban city. I was raised and went to the School of Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. Rough, tumble. I mean, I was not a nice guy back in the day. Mm-hmm. Just honestly speaking, I was not. Not proud of it, but it is what it is. Growing up on the mean streets, tough streets of Cleveland, you learn how to survive. I could always fight, and I could always run. And I did a little bit of both. My first football team, I think I was in the 4th grade. I played with a team called the Gaylord Raiders. Mm-hmm. And they were just a street team, wasn't nothing organized, just a bunch of guys that would get all the little kids together and we would play and tackle. I mean, we would play tackle football in the streets. And I've got scars to prove it. Well, I went from that, and I always played with the big kids. My older brother, Malcolm, he kind of took me under his wing and had me playing with the teenagers. I mean, my God, I was 7, 8, 9. And like I said, I could run. So they really couldn't catch me. And when they did catch you, in Cleveland, it was a little bit different from organized football. They would tackle you, and then they would just pile on top of you. You know, a guy may come in 10 seconds after the tackle and finish you off. So the ideal thing was to just never get caught. So that's what I tried to do.
That's good strategy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What grade did you move down to Dothan?
Well, Mom and Dad, they divorced. My uncle, Jr., Lindsay Edwards, which is John's dad, he actually bought my mom a house out in Young America, and that got us out of Cleveland, and probably saved my life because even as a youngster, I mean, I wasn't into the drug scene or the breaking and stealing and all of that, but just my surroundings, my environment, it was not a nice environment. I mean, by today's standards, it was. I mean, now granted, I loved every minute of it because I learned a whole. I mean, I was doing things at 8 or 9 years old that most college kids wasn't doing. I had an older brother, Malcolm. He would sneak me out of the house at, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Whenever we heard the Johnny Carson music come on, that was our cue to go. We would sleep in the attic. We would jump out on the roof, climb down a tree, and we were downtown Cleveland every Saturday, Friday and Saturday nights, man. And all we had to do was get back in the house before 6 o'clock, before mom got up. And that was great. It was a great life for me because my big brother took care of me.
Wow. Wow. Well, moving down to Dothan must have been a step back in time.
Well, I gotta tell you, it was culture shock. Mm-hmm. Here I come from being. I grew up in a place called King Kennedy, which was rough and tumble neighborhood. It's the projects. They don't make them like that anymore. There was no day at the office. It was rough. I mean, I've seen people shot, 10 yards from me, 20 yards from me, real life in the city. I mean, it was in the city. So when I left there and went to Dothan, it was culture shock.
Very a lot slower.
Things were so much slower. The kids that I hung around with, the guys, they were all good guys, but they were just a little different, just a little different. And like I said, I could always fight. And I didn't take a whole lot of lip. And whenever someone would, and they didn't know it, they didn't know. Whenever they would say something out of pocket or whatever, I would beat them up. I mean, and I had no right to beat these guys up, but I would just beat them up because I could fight. And back in those days, there was a guy named Preacher Bell. He was like my punching bag of choice. I would teach him a lesson, and then everybody else would kind of fall in line.
In Cleveland or in Dothan?
No. This was Dothan, Alabama. This is out in Young America. And it wasn't Preacher Bell's fault. It was really my fault because I was just not a nice dude, man. I just wasn't a good dude, man. I really wasn't.
Well, you were growing up. You were maturing on your own pace. What was your first grade in Dothan? What grade did you enter?
I came down in the 6th grade. I moved down after the new year, and I went to Wilson Street for a half a year. And my 7th grade year, I went to Beverly. 7th and 8th grade year, I went to Beverly, and then followed that up with Northview.
Okay, so you were in Dothan for 3 grades before you went to the high school. And were some of the guys from Beverly ultimately teammates and classmates at Northview?
Oh yeah. Leo, all the guys in Young America, Chris and Craig Grubbs, Leo Butler, Jerry Taylor, Russell Reese, Doug Jones, my cousin John Edwards, James Edwards. I mean, all of those guys,
During the 80s, the amount of athletes who lived on Young America is remarkable. If you go back and look at all those guys, let's say during a 10-year period in the 80s, early 90s, it's a never-ending list of outstanding athletes in all different sports, not just in high school. Many played on the next level. And it just was it was amazing. And I know Coach Parrish spent many a day either picking up kids or dropping off kids to and from the campus. Yeah. We've got, oh gosh, I got to tell you who all I've been listening to you. Bruce Johnson, Kevin Harrison, Mark Reeves, a whole bunch of guys.
All right.
Revis Gertman says, Wilson Street in the house, hashtag morning view. Mark Reeves says, woo-woo, shake them up, fake them out.
Yeah. But like I say, it was a great deal. I remember actually my first coach in Dothan was Coach Potter with the Stringer Street Bulldogs. We would all play pickup games in Young America, just all day long. And I never played organized sports. And Chris and Craig Grubbs, Jerry Taylor, they said, man, why don't you come out for the Bulldogs? And I didn't know what a Bulldog was. So I actually went to a practice. I think I caught a ride with Jerry Taylor and just showed up. They gave me a helmet, put some shoulder pads on me. Never did that before. And then I didn't have any cleats, didn't have any pants. And they would just throw me the ball and let me run, go through the power play and let me run. I think I scored, 5 straight times. Coach Potter called the timeout, took my helmet off, took my shoulder pads off, and he put me in his car and he took me home. I thought I was in trouble. And he went to my mom and he said, ma'am, he said, you don't know me from Coach Potter. He said, but will it be okay for your son to play with me? Could you go down to the Lincoln Community Center and sign him up like tomorrow? And that was that. That's how I got started with the Bulldogs. And my cousin John and I, in later years, man, we were doing like 11-on-11 drills like they do now back in '82 out there at Walton Park on the basketball court. We would choose sides. My goodness, we were just like a past skeleton drill, just producing these tremendous athletes. I mean, there's a guy like Tom, like David Hogan. He's a young guy, but back then, man, he was like a 7th, 8th round draft pick. There's just so much talent that you can choose before you would get to somebody like that. And we would just, we would ball out. I mean, from the time the sun came up to the time the sun went down, just nonstop basketball and football.
In all fairness to David Hogan, he was 3 years younger than you.
No. Well, you're going to learn with me, but no, I don't grade on the curve. You get on the field, hey, you get what you get.
I got you. And speaking of your cousin, John David, where he and I came across each other was on the baseball diamond.
Correct. John was a huge baseball fan, very talented, hard-nosed, hard worker. And him and I were more, when I first came to Dothan, we bonded like brothers. I mean, we was just tighter than glue. And, John was my cousin. And we would slap box. And, come on. I would light him up. Unapologetically, I would just light him up. And finally, John said, what are you doing? Why are you getting me like this? How are you doing this? And I taught him the art of counterpunching. And after that point, the scales kind of started evening out a little bit because he was bigger, longer arms. I would have to try to get closer. Great athlete, one of the best athletes I've ever went to battle with. John and I would go to different basketball courts, man. I'm talking Cincinnati, Cleveland, Dothan, Montgomery, anywhere, and hold our own. We had a good time traveling around, man, just taking on different guys back in the day.
Sometimes your cousins are some of your very best and closest friends. That's awesome.
I agree.
And by the way, he's calling you a liar. You didn't well, let's talk about 9th grade at Northview. Ultimately, you were on one of the teams that won the state title in '81. But what was your freshman year? What year did you come in as a freshman?
I came over at Northview. I was there in 1980.
Okay. So the fall of '80. So you'd been a sophomore when Northview won its first title?
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
And Mark King just joined us, and Chase Letcher. We got a whole bunch of folks who are checking you out tonight.
Okay.
So as a 9th grader, did you have any idea? I know you played multiple sports. I know you played basketball, and I think you ran track in the spring. Am I right?
That's correct. That's right.
So really, you were playing the sport of the season, whatever it may be, and that's a real tribute to your God-given talents and the coaches recognizing that. But Was football always your first love, or did other sports
Oh,
catch your?
without a doubt. I actually love football. It was I hated to lose. I mean, I would cry like a baby
Mhm.
when I would take an L. I just hated to lose, and no matter I would give it up my 100% every time, but I just did not lose it, man. Did not take that well. At Beverly, we went undefeated in football. I think we went 6-0, and we lost one game in basketball to Bruce Johnson and those filthy Carver Lions or whatever they were called. Uh, they got us by 1 point, 43-42 in our place, and I couldn't beat them up. So we just got better and just went out and won the whole thing, the championship in basketball. But we had also won it in football. Also, we were coached by Coach Kellum and Coach Parver. When we transitioned to ninth grade, it was just more of the same, man. Just coming in, just trying to be dominant. I had a lot of guys from Young America, Leo Butler, and all these guys. I mean, we just came in, and then I met this guy. Just a wow, man. He was probably just as crazy as I was, and we instantly just clicked. And that guy's name was Paul Dunseth. Just a wild maniac of a guy, and I loved him right from the start. We were the two middle linebackers, and it was just a nasty, ferocious defense, man. Just an awesome defense.
I was
Um,
who were the ninth grade coaches in 1980?
I think that was Coach Tribb
Mhm.
and maybe Coach Johnson.
Okay.
I think Coach Johnson maybe coached the defense, or maybe Coach Andrews. I'm not sure,
So
but they would just unleash us on defense, man, and just attack. Because we had so much team speed. You had Marcus Paul, you had Lenoris White, Lenoris Reynolds, Reggie White, Kenny Owens, and we just would attack. Just attack people, man. And we played on the other side of the line of scrimmage with so much team speed. And then offensively, you had Marcus Paul, you had myself, Leo Butler was the quarterback, uh, uh, Blake Hall was one of the receivers, I believe Shane Cobb, man, James Gardner. Man, we were just dynamic. They had a whole lot of talent at a whole lot of places.
did you or any of the ninth graders see any JV or varsity action?
No, I don't think any of us got called up because those teams were solid. I mean, Northview was just a solid tradition of talent. Me personally, I would prefer to stay out in the Dust Bowl and eat that dirt and dust instead of going up there. They had some guys by the name David and Danny Carmichael back then. Oh my goodness, beast! And those guys started in front of Larry. Those guys, the Carmichael boys, man. No, I didn't want any part of that. Scott Patterson.
Yeah.
No, I don't want. I was happy where I was at, man. Let me be a ninth grader.
Charles reminded us it was Coach Kirkland and Coach Tribb were the ninth grade coaches.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
And so you're playing on both sides of the ball. At what point was it decided that you would just focus in the backfield, or did you continue to play both sides?
No, when I moved up to varsity as a 10th grader, it was strictly running back. It was more or less running back by committee. Back then, the coaches, Coach Parrish, they built a brick wall. There was a brick wall out there over by Cougar Alley. And the guys, they would hand you the football and have you run into that brick wall. The guys who would run through that brick wall, they made fullbacks. Mickey Sappho, Doug Jones, Philip Braswell. The guys that would run into that brick wall, hit it, pop back, get up and hit it again, they made us halfbacks. And the guys who would sneak around that brick wall, they made those guys quarterbacks. The David Offers, the Dick Lillards, the Leo Butlers, so we all kind of had a part to play. And I was fine. Just being a running back. I loved the position, loved being a running back, and didn't have no need to play on defense because it was, man, there was really nowhere to go. That defense was solid.
Well, take us to your sophomore year when you first got some varsity play time. Do you remember where you were? Do you remember how you felt or any of that memory?
Yeah, when you first came up, it was dog eat dog. I mean, our backfield was stacked. You know, Bradwell, Doug, Mickey Saffold, Ron Eli, Marcus Paul, myself. There were going to be not going to be a whole lot of snaps. You're not going to get a lot of carries. You have to, first of all, you have to learn how to block. You had to be able to block if you're going to play in that Coach Parrish backfield. You had to know how to block because you wasn't going to be no hot dogging. Everybody's going to get to carry the ball, and you had to fight for everything you got. So that kind of got me up to speed real quick. I had figured out a long time ago, if I can go from point A to point B as quick as possible, then usually it was going to be see you later. It was going to be a foot race. So my strategy was to just go from point A to point B as quick as possible and just let the chips just settle, let the dust settle what's going to settle.
I tell you, so many guys, Woo, have said that their experience at practice being so intense during the week, they look forward to the games because it was not as hard. Well, they were hard hitting, don't get me wrong, and there were butterflies, but you were looking forward to the game when you were no longer either getting beaten up by or beating up on the same.
Very true. Very true. Man, it was so physical. I got to tell you, as a sophomore, our defense was seniors. You had one junior, was David Fields, inside linebacker. You had Scott Redman Patterson, Herschel Bird, Pi Whaley, Leon Morris, John Kite, Larry Roberts, Carmichael Patton, Charles Bronson. Man, these guys would knock your jock in the dirt. And solid. I'm talking about would not stop. And would you worked out with these guys. You saw how much effort they put in the weight room. Man, these guys were no joke, man. They were no joke. I mean, they were mean, nasty, and they were talented.
Well, look how many of those guys ended up playing on the second level, the next level, and Larry making it to the pros. But your sophomore year, that was one of the special, if not the greatest season in Northview history. It certainly is in the top 2 or 3, going 13-1 and winning the whole thing. But do you remember when David got hurt early in the season and Dickey came in and played so admirable? Well, better than admirably. He was a leader the rest of the year.
Yes. I remember when David got hurt. David, let me tell you about David. David, I believe, was probably the fastest kid on the team. And that includes myself, Marcus Paul, whoever. He was so lightning quick. When David would turn the corner, you would have to get on your horse just to keep up because, back then we ran a whole lot of options. David would be 30 yards down the field and come back and flip it to you, and you could take it to the house. But I remember when he went down, it was tough, man. It was a tough blow. We actually won the game. And Dickey, I didn't really know Dickey. I didn't know Dickey. I knew David. He was our leader. But Dickey came in and did one well of a job. He grabbed the bull by the horns. He didn't turn the ball over. He just didn't. He would not turn it over. He would get it to the playmakers, and we would kind of like rely on that defense because we knew if we can get 10 points, 13 points, game over. Because a lot of people weren't going to score a whole lot against our defense.
I was going to say a lot of times the defense just shut folks down. But talk to us a little bit about being in the backfield, sharing some time, not just with Mickey Saffold, but with Doug Jones. A lot of people have referred to you guys as Lightning and Thunder and a whole bunch of other similar nicknames. But it always made me so proud, whether I was sitting in the stands as a 9th grader or being a teammate a couple of years behind you guys on the sidelines, seeing the two of y'all in the background in the backfield. I didn't think there was any tandem better in high school football in Alabama.
Well, yeah, but you can't leave out Mickey Saffold. You can't leave out Bradwell. You can't leave out Ron Eli, Marcus Paul. We all, like I said, we all had each other's back. We all put in the work. Coach Andrews coached us hard, man. He coached us hard, but it paid off for us. And we knew the way we was brought up. When your number got called, you better do something with it. And you better do something with it quick, because if you don't, somebody else is going to come back in there and do it for you. It was just that type of camaraderie, man. We would just push each other to no limit. my job was just to get it and try to go the distance every time. I would just try to get, because I knew Doug had all of that size, man. He had all that size. And I knew if we got first down and goal, man, Coach Parrish was going to give to Doug, or he was going to ride Doug and throw the pop pass to Larry. So I would try to get it from 80 yards out, 75 yards out, 50 yards out, and take it to the house, just so I can get my name in the paper. I can wet my beak, if you will. But it was a great time with Doug, man. Just a bruising back. It wasn't very shifty. He would just maul you, man. Just powerful, just maul you. Braswell didn't even want to carry the ball. He just loved to block. He would always get the Headhunter Award at the banquet because he just loved to block, man. And I would just watch everybody, and I would just take a little bit of their game. Eli was a little shifty, had some nice moves. Mickey was a low center of gravity guy, powerful, sturdy. Doug can kind of finesse you a little bit, but dip that shoulder. Braswell would block. So I just incorporated all of that into what I do, and there you have it.
Well, I tell you, it's such a tribute to the coaches on creating such great team chemistry. When your quarterback goes down early in the season, and like in my senior year when Lawrence went down in the first series of the season, it was the same effect, and it took a few games for us to get, right.
That's right.
So to speak. But you guys clearly found your groove throughout the season. But Catfish McKenzie is with us. Ramona Stanley Walker is with us, and want to welcome. Oh, Mark King has joined us. So a bunch of folks from back in the day, and thank you.
All right.
For coming by. Just living some good memories with Woo Woo. And speaking of memories, I want to thank you again for being my campaign manager. When
I remember that, man. I remember that. now, mind you, I didn't know anything about politics. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you want me to do this? You're like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Here, just give a speech in front of about 1,600 people.
Yeah, no problem.
What you may not remember is Chris Maddox, one of my still very close buddies. He and I were both running for the same spot. But in his speech, and I've referenced this many times.
I know where you're going.
Remember what he said?
I use it also.
You got everybody to slide over to clean off the bench and organize everybody that quickly. I mean, that's what wonderful. It's brilliant. This campaign manager, I let the team down, so I apologize. But I appreciate the speech that you gave.
Well, no, like I said, it was good fun. Like I said, I didn't remember the guy's name, but I've also used that line, Bernard. Straight up, I have used that.
That's awesome. Oh, Shirley C is now with us. My fullback, LaRue Freeman, has joined us, and Tara. Is joined
there you go. There you go. Yeah, so those names that you're dropping, man, the LaRue Freeman, the Tom Toms, the Lawrence Darcy's, yourself. Man, you guys were like 10th graders my senior year.
Yep.
So what we would do, I was just trying to pass it down to you guys. You had Sammy Floyd, Cassie Butler, and all these guys, because I had got it from great guys also. I mean, Mark Kingery, Kevin Chris, Ahmed Fitch, Mark Jablonski, Jeff Coleman, James Gardner, man, Blake Bench, man, these guys, man, just so much heart. I mean, just so much heart. And I just can hear Coach Parrish's voice now. Move your feet, move your feet, move your feet, move your feet. They're pushing that freaking sled, man, over there. And old Coach Andrews had a little, we were taking a knee, getting water, man. Those guys were working like dogs, but those guys blocked for me, man. They made my job so much easier, man. I'm telling you, it was the pleasure running behind those guys.
Well, I tell you, Woo, it was y'all led by example. And with me playing quarterback and Leo being 2 years ahead of me and also playing on the baseball team with me, gosh, he was one of my idols, not just on the field, but just was such a great friend. He didn't have to friend me. We were from opposite sides of town. The only commonality is I was a pest. I was 2 years behind him, but I wanted to be him because Leo could throw the ball 80 yards downfield if he wanted to. And on the mound, he was so fast at pitching. But that just set the bar so high in such a great way from a sports perspective and from I hate to sound mushy, but from, kind of a mentor, big brother standpoint.
Of course. Yeah, I was a student of the game, and I would watch the Northview legends, like the Steve Ences, the Doug Jones, the Dwight Jones, the Reggie Jones, Daddy Fats, and I would watch these guys, man. This kicker name was DJ, big, huge guy, but he can kick it 100 miles. And I would watch these guys, and I just watch them how they work, man. Just that work ethic, and just go in there. And I just said, I want to be just like that, if not better. So let's just put the work in.
Well, Woo, let's take it to the state championship game your sophomore year against Carver of Carver Birmingham.
Birmingham,
At Legion Field. What do you remember about that? Is there a flood of memories that still come back at all?
Well, before I go there, I'll take you back to the first game of the playoffs, and that was against Murphy. And Pi Whaley made an interception in the end zone against Pat Washington. I think he ended up going to Auburn and quarterback in Auburn for a couple of years. Yeah. But those guys, man, just watching them come up, Murphy, then Foley, and then Jeff Davis, undefeated, #1 in the state, I think #3 in the country, Jeff Davis, man. We had to go to Crampton Bowl and battle these guys. Had a running back by the name of Curtis Stewart. Great running back. Myself and Bruce Johnson were standing side by side. First series of the game, they do a toss sweep to Curtis. Fullback chops down our end. He's coming toward our sideline. And there's old red man, Scott Patterson. He's scraping. And there's going to be a collision. Those guys butt heads like rams, man, just stalemated each other. And they fell out of bounds to me and Bruce's feet. Bruce and I, we looked at each other. We looked down at them. And we took 2 steps back. We knew right then and there it was going to be big boy football that night. And it was. We ended up beating them 10-7. They missed the field goal late. And I want to use that to jump into the Carver game. That Carver Birmingham team was a great team defensively. I think they pitched 6 or 7 shutouts that year. Great defense. A lot of people probably don't remember, there was an all-black school. Talent all over the field. You probably wasn't going to outrun them. So you just had to go mano-a-mano, and that's what we did. We battled. Had a guy, Andrew Anderson, quarterback, ended up going to Southern Miss and quarterbacking those guys down there. And they had great receivers, but we had a great secondary. So it was just bang, 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 bang. And it came down to, and a lot of people probably don't remember this, probably don't want to admit it. They should have beat us. We should not have been state champs. They had the football, I think, at our 6-yard line. And they were going in, but they didn't have no timeouts. And they set up to kick a field goal. They hadn't kicked the field goal all year because they don't have a field goal kicker. They've been going for 2 all year. They line up to do a field goal. They snap it. The guy bumbles the snap. We tackle the guy, get the ball back, and just down the ball and ran it out. But if they kicked that field goal, man, they beat us 9-7. I remember that. So my hat's off to those guys. But that's what it was like back in those days, man. It was, you fought for every inch that you got. You had to run hard. Once again, Bruce and I was on the sideline. We seen Ron Eli take a pitch coming toward us. The cornerback came up. He locked up with Ron, and the linebacker just came up and he smoked him, and they pulled Eli like this in different directions. And Eli hit that Legion Field carpet, and man, he just bounced. And once again, Bruce and I looked at each other, and we backed up 3 steps this time because we knew that it was going to be big boy football that afternoon also.
Absolutely. Well, take us through, I mean, if you haven't gone through a state championship game, whether you're on the sidelines or in the action, it's hard to describe that it's our Super Bowl. You know, when you're a 18-year-old kid and the stadium is completely full, you swear now that you're many years after the fact that there was 50, 60,000 people there, when in reality it was probably about 20, 25,000. But anyway,
that's right.
Those are the kind of memories that have always stuck with me. and I know they've stuck with you, they've stuck with your brother and anybody who's been in those games. Take us past that. Let's go to your your junior and senior years. And a lot of talent graduates. Larry, Brent, that whole talented crew, they're gone. But you guys are continuing the legacy of the program. And did you feel additional pressure other than being a high school junior and wanting to recreate that same season?
Well, there was never really any pressure because we always practice hard. You had a job to do. You knew what you had to do. So it's just get out there and do your job. The real shocker for us was the first game of my junior year. We played a team called Americus, Georgia. And they were coming off a state championship also. And I remember watching the film of those guys during the summer, just checking them out. You know, you could tell they were big, they moved well, but it was nothing like seeing them firsthand. They were just a well-oiled machine. And I think they smoked us, man. I think they smoked us
36.
40 something to nothing.
I think it was like 30. I was there. It was like
Ripu Stadium in our house. I remember they came in there, man, and that quarterback, I don't know his name, but he marched them from maybe the 30 to probably all of 35 or 40 just on hard counts alone. Just hard snapping, and we get a penalty. I mean, maybe 6, 7, 8 times straight. They were just well coached, well-oiled machine, and they had our number. We went from that game, and the locker room was madness, and everybody had to take a good look in the mirror. Like, okay, we were state champs, but that was last year. What are you going to do about it now? And we finished up strong. I think we ended up 7-3. We just missed the playoffs. If we would have beat Dalton High, we probably would have made it at an 8-2 team. But it was tough, man. It was tough.
Woo, your memory was good. In 82, we lost 36-0 to Americus at home. And then we went up there your senior year and lost to them 21-9.
21-9, yeah.
What I remember about being at Americus that year, their field, I don't know if you remember this, their field was like playing in a pasture.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And if you remember correctly, that was some kid earlier that summer had died doing a workout. I'm not sure if it was in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, wherever it was at. But every time you would run several plays, 5, 6, 10 plays, whatever, they would always call a timeout and give us kids a water break, which is cool. That's fine. But they always did it for their offense. They would get in a little tired. It was muggy, it was hot. You pan in that cow pasture. And they got away with one. They kind of got a little home cooking, which is fine. You know, you get that from time to time. And we were always coached, and, you know, you don't cry with spilled milk. You handle your business and take care of yourself. But yeah, that was a tough one. That was my senior year, actually. That was a tough one. We hung with them. We battled them, but they got us. They got us 21-9.
I want to talk about your senior year. At this point, were you starting the recruiting process? Did you have your mindset of wanting to play in college? Take us a little bit through the recruiting time.
Oh man, I wasn't thinking about playing in college, man. I was thinking about playing for the Oakland Raiders. My mindset was screw college, man. I was trying to get to the Raiders. We had a guy by the name of Doug Jones, and all of us seniors knew, well, Doug's tape's gonna go all over the country. So whatever you do, try to look good on that tape. You know, that eye in the sky don't lie. So we trained hard that summer, practiced hard in the fall camp, but we started out, believe it or not, 0-3. I think the first game we lost to Prattville with a nail biter. I forget who got us in the second game. It could have been Lanier. I think Lanier was the third game. But we started off 0-3, man, and that was your senior year. You're 0-3 going into game 4. And we strung together about 5 or 6 wins. We ended up like 6-4, but it was a tough season, man. Tough season because we wasn't living up to the Northview standards, and that's what really made it hard.
It was Americus Prattville and Sidney Lanier all away. There was a ton of away games that year.
First
Uh,
three. First
yeah,
three. Yep.
you didn't win until the fourth game. You beat Kendrick
Beat
24
Kendrick.
nothing.
That's right. That's right.
Viger 27-14, and then lost to Greenville. Then you had Carver of Montgomery, a rematch. No, I'm sorry, Carver of Montgomery. Selma, lost to Enterprise, beat Dothan, and beat Carroll,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up with a 6-5 record that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's actually that Greenville game was the game I believe at the end of the year, some type of charity bowl or something. You know.
Charity Bowl in Dothan, I think it was in
Yeah.
Dothan.
Yeah.
Well, talk to us a little bit about your recruiting. We all know that you ended up at UT-Chattanooga, but was that a foregone conclusion? Were there other schools that you were looking at?
Well, that's funny. It was, I grew up an Auburn fan. When I moved from Cleveland to Dothan, it became apparent to me very, 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 very fast that you were either going to be Alabama or you were going to be Auburn. And my uncle was a big Auburn fan. A couple of my cousins were big Auburn fans. My cousin John was the only Alabama fan in the house. So I just I chose Auburn for whatever reason. So I actually wanted to go to Auburn. They kind of somewhat recruited me. Most of the bigger schools, they were doing what they call back then was partial scholarships. So they was like, hey, you come over here, we'll give you a partial scholarship, and you can play cornerback for us. And I'm thinking cornerback, I'm a running back, because back then, I mean, I thought I was 10 feet tall. I thought I was like 280. I didn't know I was 5 foot nothing. I didn't know I was 100 and nothing. So these guys are offering me this partial scholarship, and I wasn't even thinking about that. UTC came along. I went up there. Spanky Thomas from Dothan High, he was already there, and went up there and had a great, great, great recruiting session. Loved it, and I made my choice. From that process, going into UTC, it was just that was the place for me. It was I learned a whole lot of things after I've already signed and delivered that I had other offers and other things on the table that I didn't know about. But once you sign that paper, that letter of intent, it's like a done deal.
Well, back then, at least my experience was Coach Parrish didn't want the players seeing all the letters, knowing about all of who was calling and checking and coming by practice. Was he doing that for y'all as well? Keeping
well, I didn't find out about it. I'll tell you when I found out about it. It was I think it was during the track season, and we were doing something inside the gym. I think it was raining outside, so we was probably running around in the gym. And I remember going out into the lobby of the gym and get some water. And the phone used to be Coach Parrish's old office right there in the center. It was ringing, so I went and answered the phone, and somebody looking for somebody. And as I hung up top, there was like a huge thing up there. I pulled it down. And I had like a stack of letters like this with big fat rubber bands around it, and they were just my name on all of them. And but I was already signed and delivered. I mean, it was letters, how people send you the questionnaires and all that stuff. And I used to love it because I would take the posters and pin them up on my wall at home in the bedroom. But I was already signed and delivered. So all of these schools that I had never even heard of, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't cry for spilt milk.
Well, we're getting close toward the end of our discussion, and I have absolutely loved this, just hearing some of your stories and experiences. And one of the things that I do want to touch on before we get out of here is I always like to learn life lessons and from the experiences that whoever I'm talking to and how they've incorporated that either into their adult family life with their children or other family or businesses they may be running. And it's easy to draw a parallel for me, the way the coaches led our team and kept us as a team. There weren't any prima donnas. They didn't allow for, somebody to be focused or featured so much. But I'm going to hush up and I'm going to let you take over for the last couple of minutes. Tell us about some of those life lessons that you've been able to incorporate into past high school, past college days.
Well, man, I've got plenty. I remember one of the first, there's nothing that teaches speed. I mean, you can go to speed camps, you can jump, you can do whatever, but nothing teaches speed quite like your older brother chasing you around with the dookie stick. Man, there's nothing like that teaches speed like that. My older brother Malcolm would, man, he would just get a stick or branch and just dig into a pile of you know what and chase you. Buddy, that would get you going. Uh,
Please tell me you did that to Shockey later on in life.
oh man, of course I did. Of course. But with Shockey, let me tell you about this guy Shockey. He was a mama's boy, first off. He was a mama's boy. And he still is. I would chase him and he'd go get the whining and whatever. Yeah, you're not gonna touch the guy with it. But he would cry and whine and you know, he'll pay you to leave him alone. Hey, take my money, take my juice bottle. This guy's a fraud. Let me tell you about this guy Shockey. no, but no, seriously, what I've learned in this life is my uncle Trap, Alabama State graduate, mathematics, got his master's, and this is what impressed me about him. He got his master's from some place called Notre Dame, South Bend. Really impressed me. And he told me once, he said, in life, don't pick up nothing heavier than a money sack, and don't carry nothing lighter than a light conversation. Words to live by. He also taught him, my dad, my granddad, my Uncle Junior, these men, those are the guys that are on my Mount Rushmore when it comes to men. And I have patterned myself, I've used that blueprint just to follow my life like that. And they all told me the same thing. Work hard. Work really, really, really hard for anything that you want, and you can get it. You can achieve it. So hard work, man, there's nothing like hard work, man. Work hard. You know what I'm talking about, man. I mean, I don't care if you're in the classroom, business room, driving a truck, picking up trash, washing dishes, man. Just be the best that you can possibly be and just work hard, man. Everything's gonna be all right.
There's nothing that replaces hard work.
Agreed. Totally agree.
Woo, thank you for your time today.
Man, my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Oh, your sharing your stories has meant the world to me and to so many people who've been watching. And gosh, that's why I'm doing these conversations, just bringing back some fun memories, just reliving some glory days, bringing some levity to the world we've got right now. So thank you. I sure appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, Bernard, anytime.
Well, guys, that'll conclude us for this week's Conversations with Cougars. We're going to keep doing these. We've got a whole bunch of folks, including, wait for it, Coach Griffin next Wednesday. So stay tuned. Guys, have a good week. Be safe, be smart, and we will catch you next week. Take care.